Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Before we talk boxing, big massive shout out to the Hit Company, new sponsor on the channel. Delighted to be working with them. Online courses, workouts on their YouTube channel, gym. Alright people, midweek report time. Back home after what was a pretty eventful week. Well, 5 days it has to be said. Got home on Tuesday evening, was really tired yesterday, didn't get a chance to record. And it's a good thing because we got a lot more news over the last day on certain fights that have been announced, fights that are being penciled in. And yeah, in terms of the whole trip, I'm not going to stay too long on it. It was brilliant. It was brilliant being at the conference, being at the weigh-in, and the stuff me and Ade did together. That was just tremendous. Seeing how his setup is, it showed me that although I had planned on investing in, a kind of studio-esque kind of thing in the summer, it's going to have to get moved forward. I know I can move what I have here into another room, and I think we're going to have to do that because I seen what Ade has and it was just like mind blown. But enough about that. We will get on to, let's start with this. Let's start with Fury Usyk. All right, we'll start with this. So Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk. Now this really is the fight that, look, I've said this once, I'll say it again. It's the fight I really want to see. Is it commercially the biggest fight in boxing? It's fair to say no, but it's number one and number two in their respective divisions. I'd done that documentary. I recorded it last week or the week before. I recorded it a while ago, a couple of weeks anyway. And I said in that the heavyweight division, the heavyweight championship of the world, is one of the most coveted prizes in sport. So this, for me, is a must. It has to happen. It has to. We haven't had an undisputed champion since 1999. Never had one in the 4-belt era. And I'm hoping that this is legit. They're saying April the 29th. Now, I haven't seen any set location. I would imagine, I don't know, like me and Ade were talking about this, and maybe Saudi decided we'd rather have Jake Paul, Tommy Fury rather than this. So if it goes to Wembley, look, as I said before, Tyson Fury getting a slightly bigger purse split, I don't really mind that, to be honest with you. I think that he is the bigger draw commercially, just in my opinion. But if you were talking 45-55, yeah, I'd be saying that's fair. It's just if Team Fury come out, which I hope they don't, with an absolutely ridiculous offer, and it's like, oh, we think we deserve 65-35. It's just like, really? No, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we get this fight wherever it is. I don't know if it's in Wembley. That's going to be crazy. And again, Usyk, he's always been the kind of guy where travel for him, it means nothing. And, he really wants, you can tell he wants this Fury fight. You really can. In terms of other fights that are being talked about, Gervonta Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, April the 15th, which is the same day as Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang, which I'll talk about now in a couple of minutes. So April the 15th is going to be a very, very busy day, lads. Very busy day. Garcia versus Davis, that's a big fight. That is a very, very big fight. Again, being that I talked about this, I think this does great numbers on pay-per-view. I really do. I think that they tap into various different fan bases. And they have a big following in all those fan bases. They're all going to flock on this fight. It's talking about Arlington Stadium, T-Mobile Arena, or the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. If contracts are finalised for the fight, it will be officially announced sometime in the next week. And again, this is a fight I really personally hope happens. I love the fight. I think that we're in a situation now in 2023 where big fights are being talked about, and it seems like big fights are going to happen. I consider this a big fight. Now some people are going to say, gee, really? I consider this a big fight. I'm sorry, but Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, right? Usyk versus Fury, that's looking likely that we're going to get that. With this fight right here, Haney versus Loma. I know commercially you'd probably say Haney versus Loma isn't necessarily a big fight, but it's number 1 and 2 in the division, in my opinion, at lightweight. So that's a very, very big fight, at least in terms of just the boxing casuals. I consider it a big fight. With the general, public, jury's out on that one. But I don't know, I think it's a great fight, and if it happens, happy days. I think that will. I'm just trying to think what other fights are being talked about at the minute. Joyce Zhang is a good fight, truth be told. It's happening in the Copper Box, which I'm kind of like, he fought Hammer in the Wembley Arena, I know that Wembley Arena I was there wasn't exactly full. The Copper Box is an easier arena to fill. It's up in Stratford. Walked by it a few times actually, and it's very very near to the Premier Inn. Very near to the Premier Inn in Westfield. I didn't realise it's only about like less than 10-minute walk. Really easy walk to the Copper Box, and yeah, it's not a very hard arena to fill. Is said Copper Box. So happening there for Joyce, standard BT Sport. Can't complain with that. Joyce versus Zhang. You know, I knew Frank Warren would get him out at least once more before he has his mandatory shot or whatever happens. I'd imagine it's going to be a big fight for Joyce this year, but I knew we'd get him out at least once in a relatively basic run-of-the-mill, you know, runaround. I had thought of names like Pulev, someone like that, you know, someone who I guess you could say on paper is a decent enough opponent, but at this stage probably brings nothing to the table. I thought they'd do something like that, or just someone for Joyce to look good against and, you know, blow out of the water. I didn't expect Zhilei Zhang. And this is a good thing because Zhilei Zhang is... Will I be picking Joyce? Yeah. Do I think he'll stop Zhang? Probably will. But this is a tough fight. I mean, Zhilei Zhang is coming off the back of a very good performance, albeit a defeat, has to be said, albeit a defeat, but a fight in which many people believe he was really hard done by not to get the decision against Filip Hrgović, who at the time going into the fight, many people were picking to win and win comfortably. Zhang, people would say Wilder has the best right hand in the heavyweight division, probably the best right hand in boxing. Certainly in the heavyweight division, you would say Zhang has the best left hand, because that left hand has tremendous power in it. It's actually quite a fast punch, especially early on in a fight. So, you know, Joyce, we hear about this iron chin, but I don't know, man. That left hand, I wouldn't be testing the water with it if I was in Team Joe. I'd be saying, look, you had confidence in your chin against, you know, people like Stavern, Dubois, against Joe Parker. I wouldn't be going and giving Zhilei Zhang free reins to hit you. Certainly not with that left hand, because that left hand is no joke. You don't want to mess with that. So that fight's been announced for April, and I think that's a very good fight. I think it's a fight that, again, I wasn't expecting, because I kind of thought, like, there's a risk element there that you seldom see fighters take who are in that position, you know, and you got to respect him for it, of course. You know, he could easily sit on that mandatory, that interim title, and just wait, you know, easy fight here, easy fight there, until, you know, he gets elevated to full champion or fights the winner of Fury Usyk. So, you know, credit to Joyce in that regard, you know, taking a fight like this where, yeah, he's going to be favoured, he's going to be expected to win, but there's a danger factor there that for fights against someone like a Pulev or someone like that, there wouldn't be. So, you know, I give Joyce all the credit in the world for that one. I'm not going to stay on this one too long. I said I'm only going to read the article. I'm literally just going to read the article because I've said that this is a real wake me up when we get there kind of thing. Conor Benn reportedly not expected to be banned by WBC rankings, as indicated that they will rule in favour from the WBC investigation. The separate British Boxing Board of Control and UCAN investigation is still ongoing. And again, until I see news from that one, I really could give less of a you-know-what. WBC investigation means absolutely zilch. I've said this from the start. It means nothing. The one that is really crucial is the UCAN one. And, you know, that article last week where it says that they weren't forthcoming with providing the same info, that's what I want to know. I want to know what is the issue there. I really do want to know what the issue there is. So until I hear about that, I'm not going to, you know, go into this in any great detail and anything like that. I've done it to high hell. I'm kind of just like, nah. Now, Eddie Hearn was talking about, he was on MMA Fighting and was asked about Jake Paul, Tommy Fury. He says, all the criticism, you never fought a boxer, he's about to. Not a very good one. Can't help but agree with you there, Eddie. I'll give you that one. But still a boxer. Harsh, but fair. I think he'll mess with Tommy mentally, and Tommy will be defeated before the fight. I think Jake will win by knockout. And again, I agree with him. You know, Tommy is obviously Tyson Fury's brother, is the Fury name, but he doesn't have the... You know, I met up with Outmatch Boxing, and shout out to Outmatch when I was over in London, and we went for a bit of food together. We were talking about this fight, and he said it best. He's a Fury without the Fury. And I think that really is Tommy Fury. He's a Fury, but without the Fury. He doesn't have the Fury of John, Tyson, or Shane. You know, they really have that fight in him. You don't see that with Tommy. Tommy just doesn't have it. And mentally, he definitely doesn't strike me as being as strong as Tyson or as switched on as Peter or Shane. Doesn't strike me as that. He just strikes me as being just, let me have a bit of fame and let me look good on Instagram pic and hey, I'm happy. It's almost as if he's trying to, how do I say it, like appease his family, for want of a better word, just by showing, I'll take the shirt off, I'll call out Jake Paul, I'll get in the ring, but I don't see him as being that type of person. He doesn't strike me as that. Eddie Hearn was also now this is a tease. If this does happen, I'd be very impressed. So Anthony Joshua, Jermaine Franklin, we know that fight's happening next. Expect an announcement tomorrow or so. He was basically asked pay-per-view, all right, and he says it might be on pay-per-view, it might not. Watch the space. Now, that's a tease because normally when it's pay-per-view, they will just say it. They'll be like, yeah, pay-per-view, and they'll make a reason. Oh, because it's this or because it's that. Like, I'll never forget Adam Smith. Adam Smith is what he is. But I remember him saying when Rob Tepper correctly asked him about the Joshua Pulev fight having an increase on pay-per-view, and he said, you'd said it'd only be for one of Anthony Joshua's big fights. Well, do you not consider this a big fight? No. That was at the time, and look, that was really like, he basically was saying every Joshua fight is a big fight, so we're going to bump the price up for everyone, and of course that's Adam Smith for you. So, look, we'll wait and see. Franklin versus Joshua, is it a pay-per-view fight? No. Would I be surprised if it is? No. Would I be pleasantly surprised if it isn't? Hell yeah. I would be probably very surprised if it isn't, truth be told. Now, this one is one that really pissed me off when I read this. Now, it pissed me off in two ways. One, I wasn't surprised. I really wasn't, knowing this company and knowing how disgraceful and despicable they are. But it's still a kick in the teeth. So Eddie Hearn has revealed that Kay Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, the rematch, is being targeted for May 20th in Ireland, which is good. Happy that it's going to be over here. I'm happy that we have a show. Croke Park won't be the venue due to the stadium cost. 3 times, reportedly, the GAA are charging Eddie Hearn more than it would have been to put it on Wembley. So the Tree Arena, which is no bigger, it might even be smaller than the Wembley Arena, is now the host. I mean, I'm not surprised because the GAA are an absolutely disgraceful, despicable, horrific company. They really are disgraceful. I mean, I don't even want to go on a rant about the GAA because that's going out of boxing, but they're a horrible company. They really are. Gaelic Athletic Association, Gaelic Games, hurling, which is a good sport, truth be told, but it just doesn't work on TV because the sliotar is too small and it moves so fast. And Gaelic football, which takes absolutely no skill whatsoever to play. Literally, Gaelic football takes, and anyone getting peeved off because I'm saying that, it doesn't take, deep down that well, it doesn't take any skill to play. It takes no skill to play Gaelic football. Soccer is the real, that takes skill. So, look, I'm not happy about that. I would have liked to have had it in Croke Park. I don't know if the Aviva, which is the soccer stadium, which is not too far, it's a little bit further south in the city, but I don't know why that's not an option. But the Tree Arena is just not big enough. It's not. It's like, it's probably no bigger, maybe even a bit smaller than the Wembley Arena. It's not anything to write home about. So, but I'm not surprised, but still, I would have thought for Kay Taylor's homecoming, they would have tried to, okay, let's have it, but nope. It's the GAA for you. What can I say? Alright, now, Eddie Hearn was recently interviewed, he's been interviewed by a few people, has to be said, at the event he's going in New York, or the event he's promoting in New York, I should say, this following weekend. He says, in a recent IFL interview, it was revealed that Joshua Buatsi has had his final fight on his Matchroom deal. He hasn't fought since he fought Richards last May. And I found that very interesting. That to me was a giveaway that something was up. That was he Matchroom, what was going on when he was at the BT Sport. He was part of the punchery team for Yard versus Beterbiev. So he said, so he's now out of contract. Though Matchroom have matching rights moving forward. We intend to make sure he remains a Matchroom fighter, and I think that's his mindset as well. So essentially, for those who don't know what matching rights is, from what I can gather, it's essentially, let's say hypothetically speaking, Frank Warren offers Buatsi a 3-fight deal. He makes, hypothetically, 250 grand a fight. Matchroom can match that, right? So they can match the offer that he'll receive, and then it's really down to the fighter which way he goes. If he prefers to go to, hypothetically, I'm not saying this is the case, Queensberry, he can go Queensberry. If he decides, well, ain't broke, don't fix it, I'll stay with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. If he I'm trying to think, right, because there's not really, if I was Buatsi, how bad do you want the yard fight? Because that's it, really. He doesn't really, like, you think of it like this, right? The yard fight is a big fight in the UK. And it is a big fight in the UK. But do you really want to go to Frank Warren? I mean, Frank Warren will be gunning for yard in that fight. In terms of boxer, well, look, no disrespect, but Dan Aziz he's only hitting European level now. And he is 33, needs to get a move on. But that's not a big fight. It's not. No disrespect to Dan Aziz, he's a good fighter, but he's not got the name of a yard. In terms of Bob Arum, obviously he's got Artur Beterbiev, and Beterbiev, obviously I say Beterbiev, I always get like say it one way, say it the other. But Beterbiev is fighting Callum Smith, who's a Matchroom fighter. Matchroom also have Dimitri Bivol. You know, he has a version of the world title at 175. I think if Buatsi is Richard's rematch, you know, it was a good fight. There you go. I think if he wants the biggest fights at 175, with yard being the exception, he's better off just staying where he is. Seriously, I would say he's probably better off just staying, because you have a Callum Smith fight potentially. Worst case scenario, rematch with Craig Richards. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you have a fight with Dimitri Bivol. Not saying you'd win, but it's there. Whereas you go Queensberry, you're literally just banking on the yard fight that you might not win. At least you've got some options there with Matchroom. So I would imagine, I did find it interesting though that he was at the Queensberry event, but he did always seem to have a good relationship with Eddie Hearn. So I'd say he's got more options there. So I'd say he's probably going to stick around with the zone. Now, I'm only going to touch on this briefly, but it's an apology. It's a statement from Kell Brook. Now, we obviously seen that clip of Kell Brook, some absolute buffoon. And Kell Brook really should know better than to have someone like that around him. You know, recording that, thinking it's oh, Jesus Christ. Kell Brook should know better. He's 36 years old. But the video of Kell Brook was him having a bit of the old how you doing, and it was uploaded. A lot of people seen it, etc. So Kell Brook released a statement. He says, "I messed up. I hold my hands up. I want to apologise to my family, gym friends and fans. It's no secret that I've struggled with mental health and I'm finding retirement really hard. I'm actively seeking the help I need to get me on the right path. Again, I apologise for the hurt I've caused." I wasn't surprised when I seen Kell Brook, you know, having a bit of Hoover, because I've heard for a long time that long time that Kell Brook has been partial to that for a while now, a long time. It's not a recent thing. Yeah, you know, I always worried about Kell Brook when he did retire, because he's been, look, this is not an isolated incident with Kell Brook, you know, hanging around with the wrong crowd and doing things. Do you remember when he fought Triple G? And, you know, Kell Brook, when he'd be out of camp, and you could kind of see this coming, when he'd be out of camp, or he'd be, you know, waiting for a fight, he'd always balloon up in weight. But you'd often hear stories, not good stories either, about Kell Brook. I remember he was kicked off a plane. I think I forget what he was actually doing. It might have been drunk and disorderly or something like that. But he was kicked off a plane, I think, in 2016. He's obviously, has he been stabbed twice? I know he's been stabbed once. I think he was stabbed very early in his career, but wasn't he stabbed again in Tenerife? So Kell Brook's been one of those guys where it just seems like when he's not dead set in camp, maybe that's why he's looking to come back, potentially, because maybe he knows himself that he finds just living the normal standard life, you know, looking after his kids, etc., the school runs, just boring. But I don't know. He said as an apology, and look, all I say is to Kell Brook is you need to have better people around you. I mean, you can't have people like that around you. I mean, how could anyone do that? Like, record that and think it's cool to put that up online and show the world? Like, I'm not saying Kell Brook told him to do it, but how could you be around someone who thinks that's a good idea? You know, I mean, just, I don't know. I don't know. That statement from Kell Brook. Look, at the end of the day, each to their own, whatever. I've always been very libertarian on things like that, even if I don't agree with something. Smoking is a good example. I've never smoked in my life, never would, but I'd never turn around and say it should be banned or anything like that, because if you want to, my opinion is, if look, you know the risk, you know the consequences, if you want to do it, still don't go for it. You knock yourself out. It's always been my kind of philosophy on life, of just been very libertarian kind of stance on things. Just if you want to, just if you know the risk but you're still willing to do it, then look, who am I to say you can't? It's always been that way. Ben Shalom has said that Chris Eubank's team have indicated that they will actually activate the rematch clause for the Liam Smith fight. Now, I wonder what way that's going to go, because obviously, in terms of like weight wise, obviously we kind of probably a safe bet to assume repeat, but you never know. Strange things have happened. In terms of would Liam Smith bring him down to 158 or 157? Would they do it at 163 potentially? It's an interesting one. I guess we look at that and we probably think, well, chances are it's going to happen again. He's probably going to lose again. But where does he have to go? I mean, 168 ain't going to get any easier. The guys there are absolutely freaking massive. And I don't see how Eubank does anything at 168. He's probably got a better chance, not much of a chance, but a better chance of winning something at 160. So we'll wait and see for an announcement on that. I've never heard of this network. Didn't even know it was in the UK. Anyone want to let me know? Because I've never... Some of these networks, I've never heard of this. The Zeus Network. Has anyone ever heard of this? Online UK pay-per-view for Floyd Mayweather's exhibition against Aaron Chalmers. £32.26. Right. Well, righty-o, ho-ho. That is... that's reaching. People will pay that, though, they will. But that is reaching. In terms of fights that have been announced, the March the 18th, this was just such a random fight that I seen come up, and I was kind of like, what the hell? VADA are gonna, if they are involved in this, will make an absolute killing, because both guys have failed multiple drug tests, as they do, and now they're fighting, and it's Lucas Brown versus Jarrell Big Farmer Miller. I think the fight's happening in Saudi Arabia. Such a random fight against two prolific drug cheats. Damn. Lucas Brown really shouldn't be boxing anymore. He really shouldn't, but he is. I think he couldn't get... wasn't able to get a license in the UK last year. And he was meant to fight Char on December 17th. Very disappointed that fight didn't happen. That would have been entertaining. Now he's fighting Big Farmer Miller, who's on the comeback trail after his ban of around about 3.5 years for multiple failed drug tests. Not just one, multiple, and for multiple substances too. Just to chuck that in there as well. Look, both guys, and you know something about Lucas Brown. I gave him the benefit of the doubt when he failed over in Chechnya, because I know what has gone on and what's been reported over there in the past with Ruslan Shagayev fights. I couldn't foresee Brown being that stupid, knowing he'd be tested after the fight to willingly take something the week of the fight. But truth be told, lads, that he failed the drugs test a few months later in the run-up to a fight with Briggs, which never happened. He looked absolutely shocking only, 2 years later? And he only had one fight in between. He looked like a shell of himself. And, when you hear him in interviews, he doesn't come across as exactly the sharpest tool in the box. The more I think about it now, the more I actually think maybe it was just him actually popping for real over in Chechnya. If it had been anywhere else in the world, I would have said definitely it was Brown. But just over there in Chechnya, with the way those shows go, I mean, you're the president of Chechnya. Oh, Lord, what's his name? Is it Ramon something? God almighty, I forgot now. But he's ringside when Shagayev was fighting. So when you have all that, you just kind of think, they probably sung him a lullaby. And there you go. But the more I think about it now, the more I think probably he did take it himself willingly. And in terms of Big Farmer, I mean, we know. We know his history. We know his history. Having said that, look, He didn't look great in his first fight against Bracamonte. He's had a couple, I think he's only had 1 fight or 2 fights since then. And I have to have a look and see how Big Pharma's looking, because at the end of the day, yeah, I know he's failed. Yeah, I know he's a scumbag, but I always enjoyed watching him. And there's just... It's hard, isn't it? Like, where it's like, you know what they're like. But, like, I love Povetkin. Povetkin in his prime was one of my favourite fighters. I was aware fully of his history, but I still love watching him. That's the thing, like, isn't it? It's like, you know what they've done, and you know it's like, they really shouldn't be boxing. You know, they really should be, you know, especially with someone like Miller. But at the same time, I want to see a big 300-pound guy charge forward and see how long he can keep throwing punches for, you know? So, that fight's happening March 18th. Will I watch it? Of course I'll watch it. Of course I will. But I'll leave it with that, lads. Let me know your thoughts in said comment section below. Also, as you probably will have gathered, given the fact it's been, well, on the video the whole entire time, the Hit Company have actually joined as a sponsor. So, probably at the start of the video, I'm probably going to run a little just snippet of the company at the start. So you probably see that on the, you probably would have already seen it on the intro of this video. But I said, why not? I will plug it again at the end. Very pleased they've come on board. Delighted actually to have them on board, truth be told. And I think it's going to be a nice little partnership that we're going to have now over however long it lasts. But have a look. I'm going to leave a link to their YouTube channel and their website in the description. There's a lot of stuff that they do. Like, there's obviously online, you know, you go on YouTube and you'll see, like, they've step classes, they have a lot of online training. You can actually train in various classes with them online. You can do a course with that. They also have gym gear, which I'm looking forward to getting some myself, because I'm always in the gym, so the more gear I have, the better. And let's have a look. I'm looking forward to seeing some of it. So they have a little bit of a one-stop shop for people who are interested in fitness. You know, 40-odd thousand subscribers on their YouTube channel, which is very, very good. You know, consistently posting a lot of workouts up on there. So very happy to have them on board. And yeah, I'm delighted. Absolutely delighted to have them on board. So hope you enjoyed the video, people. Have a look in the link in the description for the Hit Company as well. Just even go on their website, have a read, have a look, and check out their YouTube channel. So I will leave you with that, people. For now, smash the like button, hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you.